Good afternoon. I'm Father David. Thank you for joining me today for Disciple Time as we are looking at David's epic party. Well, have you ever gone to a party or a social celebration that was just on the next level? So, when I lived in Rome, Italy during my high school years, I'll never forget the year that my parents allowed us to host the most epic party in our home that you could imagine for high school teenagers. So we cleared the bottom floor of our house of all the furniture, and my parents let me use the $3,000 Alpine stereo system with the Bose speakers, and it had surround sound throughout the whole bottom floor. The adjoining room to the dance floor area that we cleared out was filled with all kinds of snacks and drinks. And between my brother, who was a senior, and my sister, who was a junior, and myself, who was a sophomore at the time, we had literally invited pretty much the whole school. And there was over 100 people in my house, easy. And the party started about 7, and it lasted till about 1 a.m. My parents were gracious enough. They allowed people to stay over. And the party was so epic, it kind of propelled my social life into the stratosphere. And pictures from the party, actually, because the photographer for the school yearbook was there, actually ended up in the school yearbook. So you could flip through and see some of the party's pictures. And I thought that party was pretty awesome until I read about the party that David threw for Israel when he was moving the ark. And I mean, this party started in the streets. It was like a party parade. Listen to what the Bible says in 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 13 through 14. We read this. As soon as the bearers of the ark of the Lord had advanced 6 steps, he sacrificed an ox and a fatling, and then David came dancing before the Lord with abandon, girt with a linen ephod. Now, imagine that. 6 steps into moving the ark, David's already sacrificing animals. He's already getting the barbecue going, the altar for sacrifice. But David didn't stop there, okay? It says that he was dancing with total abandon with a linen ephod. Now, I was looking into that, and scholars kind of debate what he was wearing. Some of the scholars say that the linen ephod was something that, boys would wear. It was like barely anything. It was basically like modern day tidy whities. But an even larger amount of scholars argue that this was the basic priestly garment. So if you look at passages from Exodus and Leviticus, and even if you look at the things that Samuel, the prophet, was wearing, it was a linen ephod. So in a way, David was putting off his kingly robes and donning priestly robes, and he was engaging in priestly functions. And either way you look at it, whether you think he was wearing, tidy whities, or whether you think he had girt himself in the priestly garb, if you read the verse that was left out of the lectionary for this week, for whatever reason, I don't know why they leave verses out, but if you read the verse that was left out in 2 Samuel 6:17, it's kind of interesting what you see, because some people responded to this with scorn. It says this: as the ark of the Lord was entering the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, looked down from her window, and when she saw King David jumping and dancing before the Lord, she despised him in her heart. I mean, why would they leave that out? This is important, and it teaches us something. It teaches us that people sometimes care more about what's proper in their society according to their traditions than with radical, all-in festivity and joy offered to God. And I think Michal would have probably looked with scorn on people who raise their hands and stand up in church during the praise music. But I'm not trying to meddle here. I'm just trying to point out that sometimes people authentically are called to take their worship to a place other people don't understand. And that doesn't make them wrong in doing it. In fact, David's dance, the Bible said, pleased the Lord. And it didn't stop there. No, sir. We read in 2 Samuel 6:15 that David and all the house of Israel were bringing up the ark of the Lord with shouts of joy and sounds of horns. So this was literally a parade. And when I read this, being from Mississippi and the New Orleans area, I couldn't help but think about the Mardi Gras. And it gets such a bad rap because it's such a raunchy parade at times. But it's gotten a lot worse over the years, but singing and dancing and music is all involved in this parade. And if you ever saw the Mardi Gras, you wouldn't forget it. But wait, there's more, right? We read in 2 Samuel 6, verse 18 and 19, that should say 18 and 19, when David had finished sacrificing burnt offerings and communion offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts and distributed among all the people the entire multitude of Israel to every man and every woman 1 loaf of bread, 1 piece of meat, and 1 raisin cake. Now again, and this is part of that scholarly argument that David was kind of taking a priestly role, he was blessing the people, and that was kind of a priestly function also. But wow, every man, every woman got a loaf of bread, a cut of meat, and some dessert, a piece of cake. I mean, that's like the first stimulus check of all time, right? For what? Why was this all being done? To joyfully and thankfully honor the Lord in a kind of unprecedented way in his time. So what's our application today? It's kind of like some application questions, right? What would happen if we praised and danced for the Lord with total abandon like David? And then a deeper question off of that is, how is my relationship with God and the expression of it trapped in society's mold? Oh, think about that one. And then when you get to some answers, think about, how can you offer the Lord some really authentic, genuine worship? And maybe look into trying that. So, well, thank you for joining me today for David's epic party. I hope you enjoyed that little story. We'll see you next week.